get enough protein. As you know, protein's very satiating. So it's a way to feel full. I generally think at least some animal-based protein is actually pretty important to feel full and get enough taurine and zinc and some of the other nutrients. But definitely a protein breakfast can be helpful. That could be a protein powder as well. So that could be like a pea protein powder if someone prefers to go that route. Because there's something called the protein leverage hypothesis, which means that your appetite centers, they're waiting. Basically, protein is our limiting factor. So the brain essentially is waiting for a certain amount of amino acids every day. And if it doesn't get them, it starts to panic. And basically what the protein leverage hypothesis states is you will just keep eating until you get those amino acids, even if you have to eat through like 10 bags of potato chips to like, there's not a lot of protein in potato chips. If you know what I mean, like the body's just like, I have to get those amino acids. It's non-negotiable. So if you give the body amino acids, protein, then it's going to be a lot happier, a lot faster, and less likely to overeat.
With the brain, and you mentioned neurotransmitters, so thinking there in terms of the brain recalibration, of course, we need a lot of amino acids, which we find in protein-rich foods, to synthesize those chemicals. So I guess you're kind of supporting some of the calming effects, etc., from that aspect.
Directly, actually, taurine and creatine and some of the amino acids actually work sort of directly. Some evidence that branched chain amino acids are also good for the brain. So the brain does like protein. The appetite centers in the hypothalamus are just kind of regulating what's coming in. So other dietary things, I mean, this should go without saying, but like avoid ultra processed food. This is the whole evolutionary mismatch, like whole foods, animal products that are potentially meat, chicken, eggs, lentils and vegetables. And yeah, all extra virgin olive oil. And
what about dairy products?
dairy is great. Generally, it's very nutrient dense and has lots of things going for it. Fat soluble nutrients, calcium, obviously, to some extent, all those other ways to get calcium. The reason I sort of hesitate is it's all to do with, and I do talk about it in my book, about 1 in 3 of us, maybe that's much my clinical approximation, get a histamine negative, quite a negative immune reaction to something called A1 casein, which is particularly in the cow's dairy that we get in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, US, UK. Southern Europe doesn't, like other parts of the world don't have this dairy protein in their local herds at all. It's an inflammatory reaction. So, and it's not everyone. So most people are fine with dairy. It's probably quite good for them. Some people get heavier periods, premenstrual mood, breakouts, like gut things, like quite negative symptoms from normal cow's dairy. So in my book, I talk about switching to goat or sheep dairy or low casein foods like ricotta and butter. And down here we get A2 dairy. I don't know if you have that where you are,
Yeah,
but
we do, but it's hard to get. It is hard to source.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just from cows that have been bred to not have the inflammatory casein. So that's a short answer. That's a longer answer to dairy.
And Lara, what do you think about coffee and kind of caffeinated beverages generally in terms of this life stage?
Yeah, good question, because a lot of people sort of link coffee and alcohol together. So obviously earlier we talked about how alcohol, I think it's really good, important to avoid alcohol, but a lot of my patients will do both. They're like, oh, I came off, I came off alcohol and coffee and then I missed coffee. So I went on back on both. My point would be there's totally separate things. Coffee arguably is quite good for the brain in moderation in some people. So you probably know some of the research around health benefits of coffee. So at the same time, it's a stimulant. And if people already aren't sleeping or have anxiety, then it's probably not a good idea. And for what it's worth, some people do, especially the people who are gluten sensitive, which we haven't even gotten into today, but those people who are the minority of us, fortunately, some of them do seem to have a negative immune reaction to coffee. So there's some stuff going on. Put it this way, we don't need coffee. If you don't want it, don't have it. But if you love it and if you're sleeping, I don't see that it's a priority thing to give up.